So I'm just getting back from our Albion trip and going over some of my gear. And if you guys watched the last video, you saw that I was in this boat having a great time, but also got in a little deep and had a little bit of a kerfuffle. I had an imploded spray skirt, imploded back hatch, and basically got side surfed into a cliff or a rock wall and had all sorts of carnage. Had a pretty gnarly swim and learned a ton from that experience. I talked it over, debriefed with Jeff at the end of the day, and decided there's a few things that I want to do to my Katana to bring it up to code for paddling the coast. I've been floating rivers in it, but I hadn't had it to the coast, and last minute decided to bring it, and I did not have this thing set up. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to set this thing up for coastal paddling and bring you guys along, and hopefully you can gain a little bit of insight from what we do here today. So obviously when I hit the wall, I was side surfing in, hit the wall this way, and the pressure came, and so much water pressure lifted up this hatch seal, blew that hatch off, blew my spray skirt off, and then was swimming with a completely swamped boat. So a couple things that I realized that I want to do. Number one is outfitting. Dagger has really nice outfitting, and it comes with additional padding, and I felt like I was a little bit loose in the hips. So what I'm going to do is, I've already done it to this one, I'm going to add a little wedge just to increase my connection to the boat. That's step number one. Second thing is, I thought I had float bags in the front of this, but I've been paddling a few different boats. It turns out my float bags were not in the front. So when this thing filled with water, it filled with water, making it way, way harder to do a rescue than it needed to be. So stupid oversight, bad mistake. We're gonna go ahead and install a pair of float bags in the front, and then we're gonna go ahead and install a pair of float bags in the stern, in this compartment here, just for safety, just to add buoyancy. A boat without buoyancy is so incredibly difficult to rescue, as you saw. But with buoyancy, we could have done that at sea, and it would have been a much less eventful trip. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. The other thing we're gonna do is, because this hatch imploded, we're gonna go ahead and add a couple of straps across here, just to secure it so this thing can't pop off at will like it did. I'm gonna order a new skirt. And then lastly, Jeff had this, he has the same boat, and I really like what he did here. He took this out, and he had an NRS wedge throw bag that he had jammed right in here, and it clipped right in place, and that's what he used to fish me out. So I don't actually use this thing a whole lot. Mostly it's just water, and I would prefer to have my throw bag easy at hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all those upgrades and just bring you guys along. Go ahead and start by just a simple hip pad here. These things just unclip and then Velcro in. So real easy to take in and out. And then you've got this little wedge piece here that I can just slide right inside, giving myself a little bit more connection to the boat. And why is that important, you might ask? Like, why do you need to be so jammed in there? Because when you're out paddling like that, you're not just in a kayak, you become the kayak. So if there's a gap here, as your hips bounce back and forth, you lose connection and control of the boat. So this will help me be even more connected and more one with the kayak. The other thing when Jeff was fishing me out is he didn't have a good place to grab onto the boat. On all sea kayaks, you have a perimeter deck line that goes around. And on whitewater or crossover boats, you don't have that. So we're gonna go ahead and add on a couple of spots for the deck lines to run through in the front as well as in the back here. Just a spot to grip onto the boat to hold on in the bouncy water. All right, so this is what I found kind of hanging out in the back room here at the shop. I found this little buckle. It's got a nice bolt. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little waterproof gasket on there. Probably still throw some silicone just in case. And then on this other side here, I'm gonna just double it up and then poke a hole and bolt that down. So feeling around on the inside, it looks like I have enough room to put this guy right about here. Nice straight across. Got plenty of room on the inside here, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'm gonna go ahead and drill a hole right there. This is the hard part. All right, no turning back now, guys. All right, one side down, and then what I'm gonna do over here is just kind of fold this thing over and then screw another one right there. And just that one strap should be enough to keep that thing on, keep it from moving around, keep it from imploding, most importantly. All right, I went in and just took my drill and drilled a 1/4-inch hole, and then took my blowtorch and cinched it off. And now we'll just cut this little excess off and cinch that and bolt it on. All right, get this guy lined up as straight as possible. And basically we're gonna go same spot, just right through the meat there. Again, I checked inside, make sure I'm not drilling through anything. All right, there we go. Just that simple buckle adds so much security. It'll prevent this hatch from being able to implode. And just cinch it down, and it's gonna keep that thing locked on there. The next thing I'm gonna do, just in case, worst case scenario, is I'm gonna go ahead and fill this whole area with flotation. So if and when I were to get water back here, or that hatch were to somehow come off, or say I was able to, on accident, leave the side open, this will still be all positive air buoyancy. So I'm gonna grab some NRS float bags and fill this thing up. So there you go, a couple of split stern float bags. I did the split just because I have a Skag, and it's what I had readily available from my whitewater kayak. And there you go, finished product, takes up majority of room, still have just enough room for my first aid kit, and change of clothes in a small dry bag right here. But that'll take up the bulk of the room. So next up, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna install this one. This is a rec bag, but it actually fits in front of that bulkhead pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this one in, and then we'll move on to the next step. On the Katana series, you actually have a solid bulkhead, so you need to remove the bulkhead, or at least one side, to kind of get it out of the way, so you can then access up in the front here. That's about it. Now I just have this little hose hanging out here. Just jam that back. Buoyancy's all good. My hatch is strapped on. Next up, let's put some deck lines. We're gonna do some deck lines so you have a nice solid place to grab when you're doing rescues, or when you're in a swim and you need a solid place to grab onto the kayak to empty it. I decided, I don't know why I'm working in 100-degree heat. So I moved inside, and one thing I noticed is my bilge pump. I forgot to mention this, but this is something I didn't have, and I wish I did this weekend. And the reason I didn't have it is because I hate stuff clanking around on my boat. So my plan is to create a little spot behind my seat, right in here, for this thing to live. Okay, so you can see what I did here is I added a couple of female ends. The bungee will slide right into here, and then I added this little hook. So now I can just hook it all up, and should secure it nice and snug. Out of mine, but it's there if I need it. Just pop that open, comes loose. And when I don't need it, boom, bungeed in there, out of the way. My dry bag can fit back there, and good to go. So the next step is to add some perimeter deck lines, and I'm gonna have to get creative to figure out how I want to do it. But what I do know is from this section right here, I want to go ahead and put a piece of surgical tubing on there, so you have a nice solid place to grab onto. Finished product, simple and easy. I just used thin paracord deck lines, and then again I put these little pieces of tubing on there. And yeah, seems pretty solid. You can grab onto that. It has a little bit of a give to it, which is good. It means you can get a gloved hand under there fairly easy. And then when it's done, it's still fairly taut. So I just want to cut in real quick and fast forward a little bit. We're a few weeks out, but I got a couple of things that I wanted to add to this build that I think really finish out the project. So first thing is this little guy right here. This is the NRS wedge throw bag. This is what Jeff had that he used to throw out to clip a line to me, get me to safety. I took out this little compartment that, like I said, I don't really use all that much. Anything I would put in here, I would just put in a dry bag. And then this little guy fits right in, clips in place. So it's there when I need it, out of the way when I don't, and gives me a little bit of peace of mind. And then the second piece of kit was this guy right here. This was the Snapdragon Expedition Whitewater Spray Skirt. This is what I've been running in my sea kayaks and all my other boats for a long time. It's a little bit thicker bungee along the outside that'll keep it held on tighter, as well as this reinforced area along the edge that just keeps a really tight seal on the cockpit. So which means even if I get a big wave that pushes down on here, I don't have to worry about my spray skirt imploding, just a lot stouter. pretty well set for my next ocean trip, and I will definitely bring you guys along for the ride. Hopefully you found this video helpful, insightful, or if nothing else, entertaining. We all make mistakes and we all learn from them. These are all things that I should have known off the bat, or maybe I did know and just decided to, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna push it that hard. But that's how we get ourselves into trouble. So a lot of lessons were learned from me on this one. I look forward to going out there, being all set up, and really pushing it next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, this is Dan wishing you happy paddling. We'll see you on the next one.